Yes, wonderful that so many people are here. Thank you for taking the time. And we've got several countries represented here already, which is fantastic. So let's pray. Loving God, you called MCC into being, MCC ECM. Thank you for the opportunity to gather today. We trust in you that you will inspire us and give us all that we need to have a fantastic general conference. Help us to listen and learn from each other, to grow, to understand challenges that we face and find creative solutions. Thank you for the technology that enables us to meet together at this time and that will enable us to meet around the world for general conference. You give us everything that we need, and we trust in you. So we give you thanks for the blessings of this time together and the blessings that General Conference will bring to us individually, as communities, and as a global movement. In your many names, in the name of Jesus, and through the power of the Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen.
Thank you. So welcome. We are so just excited to be able to be with you and talk about General Conference. We know that this General Conference is very different from anyone that any of us have ever experienced. And so we thank you for joining us on this journey as we kind of figure it out together and co-create this. So what our plan is for this webinar is to introduce you to General Conference the way that we are framing it. We're going to talk through our schedule a little bit. We're going to talk through registration. We'll talk a little bit about the business meeting, just a hair. And we'll talk about the technology we're going to be using to be able to facilitate the conference and everything like that. And then we'll take time for questions. So if you have any questions, you can ask us throughout, or you can save your questions to the end too, whatever kind of works best for you. And throughout, we really want to encourage you to participate in the chat, to say things that you're excited about, that you hear about, to use your reactions so that we can also see what you're excited about.
And just before we begin, just so we can introduce ourselves, Lauren's going to do some talking. So while she's choking, I will introduce myself in case you don't know who we are. My name is Mike Hazy, and I'm the IT person with the denomination, as well as help co-plan general conferences. I'm also at All God's Children MCC in Minneapolis. And so that's where I'm at tonight. And I think Lauren's done coughing, so she can go next.
Thank you. Perfect. I'm Reverend Lauren Bennett. I'm in St. Louis. I'm the associate pastor at Greater St. Louis, and I get to co-direct General Conference with Mike. This is our 8th year doing this, some of you. Isn't that wild? I can't believe that. So it's such a blessing to be able to serve you in this way. And we're just really fortunate to be able to be here today. So thank you. So conference this time is a little bit different. You know, some of you I know have been there before because I recognize your names. We usually do like a 5-day in-person sort of thing. This time we're going all online for both of the main components of General Conference, the programming and the business. And so the first part of the conference will be our transformational weekend. We finally landed on language for that. It took us a while to figure out what to call that, but we're calling it our transformational weekend. So that's the time when we'll have worship together. We'll do lots of workshops and keynote speakers and all that kind of thing. So that's our transformational weekend, the 1st through 3rd of July. And then later on, a couple weeks later, we'll have our business meeting, the 15th and 16th of July. And we'll say more about that. There'll be things that come around the business meeting too, like forums and voting that will lie outside of those days. But those are the days that you really want to keep on your calendar and make sure to hold to participate in General Conference this time around. So we want to give you a little bit of introduction to our schedule. So first, we want to talk about some of the things that you can expect to participate in with General Conference. And the first is worship. What would conference be without amazing global worship? So we'll have 2 different kinds of worship services. Some will be asynchronous, meaning on your own time or in a regional time. And so that will mean that there might be a worship service that's done, that's streamed at one time for people in Manila and Australia, and at an alternative time for people in Europe, and at yet another alternative time for people in the United States and Latin America, and Canada. So we'll show you a little bit more about what we mean by that in a moment. And then we're going to have one synchronous worship service. That means everyone in the whole world will be worshiping at the exact same time. There's really only one time of day that really works in a place, at least where we have MCC churches. And so there'll be one synchronous worship service where everyone will join. So for some people, that will mean that they're joining on Sunday morning that day. And for others, it will be on Saturday, but you'll get more information on that soon. And then the other thing we're really excited about, because we're doing conference over the weekend instead of the week, we realize that most of us are, well, we're all probably in local churches in some way or capacity. And so we want to help to provide worship for local churches too. And so we're going to be providing an order of worship and suggestions for music. We'll be providing a pre-recorded sermon for you to use, like Reverend Cecilia has done for Easter and for other holidays. And we'll have liturgies and that sort of thing. And so we'll all around the whole entire world be able to have some things that are holding us together in even our local worship services. So we're really excited about that and the opportunity to kind of join together in that way. Our schedule will also include live keynote presentations. Now, you know, we're going to be all over the world. So sometimes that might mean that you're watching something that was recorded earlier that day in another part of the world. Or if you are the type of person who doesn't want to miss something live, you are welcome to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go to that live thing. But there'll be lots of opportunities to watch those. But what our commitment is to make sure that there's at least one live keynote in a time that is a normal time for you to be awake, to be able to participate in a live keynote presentation. And then all of them will be recorded throughout the weekend. So they'll be really close to live, even if it's not live when you're watching it. We'll have many, many workshops, over 20 workshops we're already planning. Some of those will be pre-recorded, so you can watch them in another time, and some of them will be live, so you'll be able to watch them live. Everything will be recorded for you to watch later. We're really excited about that. We'll talk more about that later, but every single part of General Conference will be kept in a General Conference library on the app that we'll talk about in a moment. And so you'll have access to all of General Conference programming for 6 months. And then of course, on our schedule, we'll have lots of time for social and kinship groups, and it wouldn't be a conference without some sort of exhibit hall and some way for you to meet organizations and to buy new books. I know many of you come with like a whole suitcase full of books after conference, and so there'll be a virtual exhibit as well. So the schedule is going to sort of look like this. This is a sample schedule. I know it's really tiny, so you probably can't read it super great, but I'll just read through the Friday schedule just so you can get a sense. This would be for you in your local time, wherever in the world you are. So our idea is that you would start the day with some sort of live devotional experience. And then there's going to be a 45-minute welcome to General Conference, really exciting moment for us to welcome us all into conference. Our plan is to do this 3 times. And so it's a good time for people all over the world. So some of that will be duplicated, which we learned. They're doing some of our global memorial services and other things with the elders. So we'll use that model for some of conference too. And then there'll be a keynote presentation. For some, like I said before, that will be live, and for some that will have happened a little while before. And then we all need to eat, even if we're on Zoom all day. So there'll be breaks for lunch and social gatherings, that sort of thing. And then we'll have some open time where you can navigate through workshops. You can go to the exhibit hall. You can connect with other people online, that sort of thing. Another keynote you might round your day with before dinner, where you might decide to come into a meetup group and talk to some other people who share a similar kinship as you do. And then you might decide to come together for worship, opening worship online with people in your region, and then end your day before bedtime with a devotional time. So that's just kind of a sample of what you can expect for General Conference and how you might use your day. This is our actual working document of what the sample schedule is. So you can expect something like this to be on the website eventually when it's a little less messy and a little bit more certain. But this is just to show you that, we're trying to accommodate at least 4 different time zones. These are the main time zones we've sort of been working with, knowing that most of us who are involved in an MCC church can look at this and find a time zone that at least we connect with and can, add a few hours here and there to be able to know where we are in that. And so you can see on this sample schedule, there's some of the events that we're planning on happening. This is like the Friday schedule I just talked about. And then the times are in UTC, the Universal Time Zone. And then we chose Manila to be one of those places, Sydney to be one of those places, the United Kingdom to be one of those places, and the East Coast to be one of those places. So you can kind of see what that looks like. So those times in green are those moments that that thing is really made for to be a prime time activity. So you can see like one of the first things is a live keynote, number 1. So if that's happening at 10 o'clock in Manila and noon in Sydney, that's a pretty great time to watch that. And so we will, so that'll be the first keynote, and then that'll be recorded. So then later on, people in London can watch that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a time that would work for them, that sort of thing. So that's kind of how to navigate that. But we'll get to those specifics a little bit more down the road. We just wanted you to see a little vision of what we're working with as we think about all of the different pieces of programming and how to make that work for our global context, which is much different than when we're doing, one conference in one place in the world.
So as you know, this conference will be online only, which means that we're going to be utilizing technology a lot, and there will be multiple different platforms that we'll be using. But the one place that you'll want to go for most of it will be an app, and we're using a Whova app. And there are many people that are on staff, and we're in the last webinar, that have already used the Whova app for a conference. It's a mobile app, so you can load it on your mobile device, or you can use it on just a computer, a laptop, or a desktop computer. And so we'll be giving you the links to get into the app and so on, but I just want to walk through a little bit just to give you a little taste of some of the things that you'll find on the app, because this will be where you'll go to find most of your information. In the screenshot that I'm showing you at the bottom, there are some icons, and I'm going to just walk through a couple of those icons. One of them is the agenda, and this app calls it agenda. We often refer to it as our schedule, but on this tab, you'll be able to see the title and the name of a session that might be going on, or the event that might be going on. You can see some examples there of the devotional time, or the Welcome to General Conference, the keynote 1, and so on. If you click on those, you'll be able to see the date and the specific time that those events are happening. You'll be able to read a little description about what it is and what will be taking place. You'll know who the speakers or the presenters are, because those will be listed on there as well. You'll also be able to download any documents or handouts. If it's a workshop and there's some sort of handout that the presenter wants you to have, it would be in that section. So you'd click on whatever it is, and the document would be in there for you to download. Also, this is where you will find the live stream or recording link for each one of these. Each one will have a different link. So workshop A will have a link, workshop B will have a different link. So to get those links, you'll go into this agenda area and click on that. And then you can save any of these things to My Agenda. So you're able to go through everything and say, yep, that's what I want to attend, and select that. And then you can just look at your agenda to figure out what are the things that you're doing on that day, and filter out the other things that you're not able to do. Again, there will be many workshops. You're not going to be able to watch all of them over the 3-day weekend. And so you'll pick and choose which ones, but you will have access to everything after General Conference. So you can go back and watch all of them at any time for the next 6 months after General Conference. The next tab at the bottom, or the next icon, is the attendees. And this is where you'll be able to see all attendees who are attending General Conference. They will all be listed there. And you'll be able to say a quick hi to somebody. So you can scroll and see somebody and just send a quick hi to them. Or if you'd like, you can send them a private message and chat with a person. It may be a person you know, somebody you're getting to know, somebody you met in some social group, somebody you met in a webinar or a workshop. It could be a workshop presenter, things like that, that you can send messages. You could set up a meeting time with another person. Maybe you want to gather for coffee virtually with that person or gather for a meal virtually with that person. You can set up a meeting time to meet them, and that's done through this one. And you can also exchange other contact information. So if you want to save their name, their email address, things like that to your phone or your other devices, you can do that. And lastly, I guess there's two other things. You can take personal notes in here, and you can also read a person's bio or see what other affiliations they may have. And so all of those things are in this attendees area of the app. There's also a community board area of the app. And this is where you can engage in a discussion topic. So there may be some sort of topic that we start that you want to put some input into. You can do that in this area. This will be also where you could join a social group or a kinship group. We'll have all of those listed there, and you can network with other people in that way and find out who else might be in those types of groups. There will be some meetups and other types of things, maybe a happy hour, something like that we'll be doing. And so there are other meetups that you might join in the community board. And if we have any sort of live polling, that may also be done in the community board. And so all of those things are available in that area. The messages area is where you will go to see messages from other people. You can view upcoming events that might be coming up. They'll be listed there. You'll be able to read other messages that people have sent you. You can send them to other people. And this will also be where you can read important announcements that we might have. There's also ways where we might do push notifications or things like that. But those are all things that are in this messages area. And then going back to the home screen, on the main home screen, as you see, there's a big section of additional resources. Now, this whole app right now is not fully developed. This is still just our demo version of the app. And so there are things in the additional resources that will not be in the real one. For example, there's not going to be a floor map because we're not going to be any place physically. But this would be where you can get other sorts of information. You can view all the list of sponsors and our exhibitors in that area. You can interact with all of the exhibitors through this section. And you can view the Whova guide. Whova has a lot of help guides in case you're forgetting how to do something. You can go here, and there's some really easy one-page things that will show you how to navigate the application. You can also download documents. If there are things that we want everybody to have, they would be in this section for you to download. And then there's areas for you to click to get to other parts of the app that we will be using. And again, in the last session, lots of people have used this app for other conferences and are really, it's a very powerful app and very easy to use. In addition to the app, we'll be using a lot of other technologies because we're going to be doing a lot of things. And so any of the recorded things that we've talked about, the recorded videos or the workshops, things like that, are going to be on YouTube or Vimeo. And closed captions can be used through those platforms. You can turn on closed captions. If the workshop, for example, is in a different language, you're able to put it on in your language so you can read the subtitles. Also, our programming team is working on having transcripts so that those can be translated and you can just follow along and read along in your language for some workshops. The live sessions that we'll be doing will use Zoom or Facebook. And again, there are translation options available on those platforms. And as I mentioned before, all the links will be found in that agendas section in the Whova app. So if you're trying to figure out where is this being held, all those links are going to be in that area. And we will have 24-hour support for all the attendees. So if at any point you're having trouble with the app or you can't find the link or something isn't working, we'll give you an email address and there will be somebody around the clock that will answer that email and help you to get through things. Also on this screen, you can see another app that I didn't mention, which is the Microsoft Translator app. That is another app that we'll use that does live translation. So if I'm speaking in English, somebody can be reading live what I'm saying in Portuguese, for example, and vice versa. And so that's another app that we'll use for some of our events that are happening.
That's a lot. Isn't that amazing? All the really great research that it took to be able to land on an app, and all of those other supportive technologies. So we're really grateful to Minnie and MCC who helped point us toward Whova, who have been to other conferences. Like Mike said, we had some people in the last webinar who have used Whova and really loved it. And so it's really just great to use these other platforms that some other organizations have also found to be really helpful for their events. So of course, I'm sure you're wondering what's included in registration. Reverend Elder Diane already asked a question about that in the chat too. So registration includes access to global worship services and the live devotional times. Registration will also include access to the 5 keynote addresses or main speakers that we'll have. It also will include access to all of our workshops, and also our the ability to have all of those workshops be a part of your life for 6 months after General Conference, which I think is honestly the best part about this, is that you don't have to sit in front of a computer for 4 days and watch everything while it's streaming. You can take your time and have breaks from the computer. I know we're probably all feeling Zoom fatigue at this time in our lives, and you can do what you want to and come back to other parts later because it'll be there for 6 months. And so you don't have to cram all of the content in like we usually do at conference, but you can take your time because you'll have access for a lot longer. And this can also be helpful, you know, for your churches or your own spiritual development too. You can think about using them in classes or small groups or just in your own sort of personal life. I think that's just such an amazing gift that this different technology is going to be able to gift us than we've seen before. And of course, we've already talked about it multiple times, but networking and social opportunities to connect with people from all over the world, which is also amazing. To be able to use all of these technologies, to be able to use, you know, even Google Translate on our phones, to be able to access each other. You know, once we're able to connect and chat with one another, we can really do so much with all of the technologies that exist. And so all of that is included in your conference registration fee. Yeah,
So,
Reverend Dan put in the comment, it's our first truly global conference.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I
good, Mike.
saw the question by Diane too about does registration cover the transformational meeting or the transformational weekend and the business meeting? And it was answered in the chat, but it only covers the transformational weekend, and there isn't a cost for the business meeting. And so I want to just talk a little bit about the business meeting, because everything we've been talking about so far has been what's happening on that transformational weekend, the 1st through the 3rd of July. But there is the general conference business meeting, and that will actually happen in 3 different parts. The first part will be informal and formal business forums, which will mostly take place in June of 2022. There may be some that also happen in May, but these will be, again, things that might be led by people around the denomination. Those will be the informal business forums, and then there will be the formal business forums that will happen as well, and those dates will be coming out, but those will happen in June of 2022. And then the actual business meeting, as we mentioned at the top, is going to be the 15th and 16th of July. That will only happen once and will happen live. And so it may not happen at the most convenient time zone for where you might be, but it will only happen one time. We won't do things redundant on that day. So the 15th and 16th is a Friday and Saturday when the actual business meeting will happen. And then the third part will be 24-hour online ballot voting, which will happen on July 19th. And so for 24 hours, voting will be open. Everybody who's eligible to vote will receive a link and passwords to go and vote, and it will all be ballot voting on July 19th. In the last webinar, somebody asked how the results of voting would be done, and we will publish those after the 19th. Once voting has closed, everything needs to be verified and validated, and then those will be published. We've also built in some days in case there needs to be runoff voting. There could be a second round of voting that might happen on July 20th or July 21st or something like that. Should we need any runoff voting, we've included time to do that as well. Registration for the business meeting is separate from the transformational weekend. And so right now, registration is open only for the transformational weekend, July 1st through the 3rd. Later in a month or so, we will open up registration for the business meeting. And so if you're attending both, you will need to register for both things. One does not just automatically carry over to the other. And there's multiple reasons for that, mostly so that we can verify who has voice, who has vote, what churches are represented, who lay delegates are, things like that. And so you'll want to make sure that you watch for another email later on where you register separately for the business meeting. Are there other questions that have come through the chat that I haven't been able to watch as I'm talking?
I don't think so. I think I've gotten most of them written out, and there's a couple that we're going to come back around to.
Okay. Yep.
Just to say this, sorry, there was a question about the PowerPoint and the documentation. Because this is being recorded, then obviously you could just show this in church as well if you wanted to let people know more about General Conference.
Oh, definitely. And we will be putting together a marketing video for you to use in announcements and that sort of thing soon. I don't want to make any promises of when, but that's on our immediate list. So it will get done soon. And so just a short thing that you can share with folks in announcements too. So you can look for that. Of course, now you want to register for conference, right? Can I see some reactions? So if you haven't already registered, you can register for a general conference now. We have a promo rate that will extend through April 1st. I love seeing those reactions. Very good, everybody. So that promo rate saves you a little bit. And you can do that by registering online. There's a link in the chat that Mike just put in there. And when you get there, it's going to look like this. This is our homepage. So if you navigate there through the homepage, you'll click on this register button through the main bar there. And then this is the page that you land on. And you'll see there's some stuff, mostly the things that we've already told you today. And then you can click on one of those 4 links. Now, you might be asking why there are 4 links. There are 2 reasons why there are 4 links. One is that there's a different price depending on where you live. So Cheryl just asked the question, what is the promo rate? I know that you're in the United States. So for you, the promo rate is $200. And depending on where you live, it might be a little bit different. We choose the rate for registration by obviously budgeting to see what we need to make to be able to make ends meet. And then looking to other conferences to make sure we're not asking for something that's really out of line, too much or too little. And then we also look at what that is, what that price means in other places around the world. So we do our budget in US dollars. And so we look at how much is that of someone's median income. And then we look at the countries where we have MCC presence and look at the median income in those places in the world and make registration fees based on median income. And that model we've borrowed from the World Council of Churches, which is another organization that is globally minded and mine's just toward justice, bends toward justice, and so tries to make an equitable rate around the world. And so that's why there's 4 different links there. There are also 4 different links because some of those places have a different language that is most commonly spoken. And so you can access the registration in English, in Spanish, or in Portuguese. And so that's why there are 4 different registration links. If your country is not listed there, you can just email us and we're happy to work with you to see what an equitable rate might be. We just have regions and countries that we know that there's an MCC presence, but we know that there are also people who are affiliated with MCC from all over the world that don't necessarily show up on a database search. And so just be in touch with that if you're not, don't feel represented from this list. So this is, we're excited about this. This is actually the first time that we've had registration available in Spanish and in Portuguese. And our website can also be translated. You just have to go to the top of the website, which this is a screenshot, so we can't just roll up there, but you can translate the website too by just clicking the translate button at the top of the website.
And there's been the question in the chat about can you register once and then stream to other people? And so Lauren, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, sure. Yeah, great. And so the short answer is yes, you can. It is possible for you to register and then stream to other people. And actually, to some extent, we encourage that. So in a moment, we'll talk to you a little bit about how you can get involved in General Conference. And one of those ways that we'd like to invite you all to get involved is by hosting a streaming party, is what we're calling them. So a party where you'll invite other people to join you physically and stream aspects of the conference. For me as a local church pastor, I think this is an awesome opportunity to bring people in to get to know MCC a little bit more and to provide some really great programming that I wouldn't have access to otherwise. And so for me, I think about, I'll be looking at the keynote speakers and looking at worship and some of those as opportunities to be able to stream. And if you're bringing in people into a physical gathering, you can think creatively about how to make that happen, right? You don't have to just watch everything the whole time. You could pause the video and have a discussion in real time with people who are gathered in the room, or you can use the resource however you want to use it. So it's really open for you if you're hosting if you're doing a streaming party to be able to decide how you and other people would be able to access that and how it would be most fruitful. So I think Reverend Nathan, you asked about being able to show worship. That's a great way to be able to show worship. So you might decide to stream all of the worship services and invite the congregation in on that. That's great. And you only just have to have your registration to do that. Now, that said, we do ask you to be mindful and equitable. We know that you all know what it looks like to make budgets. You're all involved in churches. And you know that at the end of the day, there are real costs associated with General Conference. There's a lot of work that's put into thinking about General Conference and how to reshape it over and over, as it turns out this time because of COVID. And so we also trust you to make the best decisions based on your budget and your needs, and also knowing sort of what it takes to do things like this. And so we ask that you register the number of people that you think that they're, would be equitable for your own congregation. So, so we ask you to use your judgment on that, and also just kind of think about what that would look like. We also want to say that the conference experience that we're offering through registration is specific, right? It's also, you're getting access to be able to network with people all over the world. You're getting access to this conference app that you can use for your own spiritual development and for other things you might be involved in. And so think about the kind of people in your church for whom that would be so exciting and enriching that they could really benefit from that. I mean, those are the kinds of people that you want to register. So that, I hope that helps a little bit in thinking about, how many people should we register in order to have our whole church watch or things like that. We really do trust you to make the right and best decisions, most just decisions in that. And to think about the great gift that it is to be able to access the app, which only an individual can do for each conference registration.
And Cecilia put in the chat box also that really the registration rate that we're offering right now, the promo rate, is the lowest rate we have ever had for any conference. And so that's much lower than it has been. And you don't have to have the transportation costs. You don't have to have the accommodations costs, those sorts of things that people have had to pay in the past. And there are some churches who over the past couple of years have been setting aside money, not knowing that this would be an online conference. And so there are churches who are going to help support other people as well. And so if your church is in that situation, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but please just let us know about that too, so we can get you hooked up with that.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to say, in the chat, is Whova a free app?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But we paid something.
Oh, yes, we had to pay
Yeah.
for it. You do not have to pay to use it. We had to pay to have it as our platform. Yes.
Yeah. So that's part of what your registration fee goes toward too. Yeah. Okay, so we also want to talk about the Go Global Fund. We might have missed some things in the chat too, so feel free to ask again too. So we have this new fund. Some of you might be familiar with the Be a Gem program that we did before to bring individuals to General Conference, wherever it was. So because we're online, we didn't want to mix messaging around that. So we created a new fund called the Go Global Fund. And this fund will help people to access General Conference, which is sort of a big way of saying that there's all different ways that people might need assistance accessing conference. Some people don't have regular access to internet. So this might mean that they're being helped to access internet for the time of General Conference, which might look different for different people, right? That might look like entrance to an internet cafe for someone, and for someone else to join with another MCC church that they live really far away from to be able to access conference. It might look like helping to fund a small group of people come together who live in a rural area who don't have good internet connection or live in an isolated region. It might look like bringing together lots of people from one geographic region and having a little bit of money to help them with those costs that might be associated with that. And it might look like funding an individual to be able to help pay for registration who might not be able to access it otherwise. So there's all kinds of ways that this money will be used to help people to really access General Conference who haven't been able to before or wouldn't be able to otherwise. And so you can give to this fund in a number of ways. So far, you can give to it in registration. You can choose in the beginning of your registration process to double your registration to cover somebody else. Or later on in the registration process, you can choose to add on $25, $50, $100 US, something like that. There's different levels to your registration to go toward a Go Global pot of money that will be used to help with access. Let's see, let me just read this comment from Lily Rose. Yeah, there's some question about how many people, if we're doing a streaming party, how many registrations do we need to purchase? I know we're not offering a very clear answer, really, because we trust you to make the right decision with that. And so if you're thinking about, having 10 people come to a streaming party, we're not necessarily asking you to buy 10 registrations. That might not be reasonable for your church. It might not be how people want to access the conference. Buying a registration is really buying the whole conference experience, which includes sort of the individual's ability to be able to be in those meetup groups and to be able to talk with other people and chat one-on-one and that sort of thing. If there's a number of people who just want to come to experience worship or just want to come to listen to a few keynotes, we're not asking you to register for each one of those people. We're just, that's really open to you to be able to make the choice and what feels equitable and right for you. Yeah, Cecilia?
I think the way to look at it is which people are really going to benefit from having access to that 6 months worth of resources. So you know, in the case of Northern Lights MCC, because I know the church, it has a really rich ministry to LGBT plus asylum seekers and refugees. So Lily, if the person heading up that area, it might be worth them having a full registration, because there'll be resources for that, and they'll be able to connect with other people around the world that are doing the same sort of work. What we really want to get beyond is just the lay delegate and the pastor coming to conference. So, you know, do you want to start a fantastic children's ministry? Perhaps you already have a brilliant music ministry. So, you know, this is going to be a really good investment for that particular ministry leader. And we want to get those people engaged in this experience, not just the people who carry the vote at the business meeting. And bear in mind that the business meeting in itself is free. So it could be that the church doesn't pay for the lay delegate to attend the general conference. They do pay for the ministry leader in charge of music to pay to go to the general conference, because, you know, that might be the best person to have the full range of the conference rather than the lay delegate. It'll vary from church to church. But, you know, we're offering this opportunity for thousands of people around the world to be able to participate and have a taste of general conference through having a streaming party, through, you know, hearing the keynote speakers, enjoying the worship, and then going on, you know, for 6 months, being able to share in the different workshops and things. So, you know, we think we're offering a great deal for the registration. And if we can help churches that are struggling even to pay the registration, we will. And we trust that churches that can afford to make the right number of registrations for their church and perhaps make a donation so that other people in the Go Global Fund can participate, that would be great. I know one church that's already said, well, you know, we've been setting aside money for conference for 3 years. And so we're going to donate some of the money that we would have spent on transport or would have spent on accommodation to the Go Global Fund so that other people can attend.
And
Yeah,
even though
you.
this is online only, there are still a lot of real costs to doing what we are doing. You know, as we already talked about, there's a real cost of paying for the app. There is a real cost for some of the support that we'll be needing. There is a real cost for some of our keynote speakers that are going to be invited to participate with us. So there are definitely some real costs as well. And so we need to kind of make all that balance at the end as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I just wanted to say to you, Lily Rose, someone else from North London also came in the last webinar too. So we might all know. I thought so. Oh,
yeah. We've had delegates from North London and Northern Lights. They're 2 different churches.
Oh, Northern Lights. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread. I thought you were from North London. Just kidding. I take it back. We did have people from North London at the last one, but my comment is no longer relevant. Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on something else that someone said, which I have no idea if that's an expression that's used around the world. But like for us at MCC GSL, we've been thinking a lot about who are the best people to send to conference who would never go. I'm just you know, thinking about like what Mike just said about a music minister. You know, we've had the same music minister for over 20 years who's never been able to go to general conference. This is a great opportunity to invite him to go. There's people who run our outreach programs who would really benefit from getting to know other people who are running their outreach programs at their churches. And so and Nathan put in the chat too that it's a great opportunity to press us to think about who will best benefit from the experience. And that is really a gift of this. I know it's a little bit more challenging because we usually just send our clergy and lay delegates, but this really does open it up to who might really benefit the most. So it is sort of exciting to think about how General Conference could be opened up to a whole new group of people too. So I think we've talked enough about the Go Global Fund. Does that make sense to everyone, and sort of how to pay registrations and what your registrations are going toward and all of that?
Yeah, and Brian asked the question, did we take a financial loss?
Oh,
And Cecilia answered it. The only penalty we lost was a small deposit that we had made like 3 years ago. And so when we contracted with the Austin Hotel 3 years ago, we paid a small deposit, and we lost that when we canceled the contract. Nothing else beyond that. Any other contracts that we entered into all had a no penalty as long as we canceled by a certain time, which is why we made the decision we did at the time that we did to go online only.
that's right. Which that was a huge gift. I just want to say, like, thank you to the Fairmont Austin if you're watching out there, because that was really quite generous, honestly, for us to be able to walk away from that contract and only lose the deposit. So we've already talked to you about some of the ways that you can get involved in conference. One of them is to host a streaming party, which we've talked a lot about on this webinar, which is fantastic. I hope that means that you all are thinking about doing that, because it's a really great opportunity to provide really amazing programming for your local church and to invite other people to get to know the denomination, possibly for the first time too. There'll be so many opportunities for you to be able to participate in worship. Because we're online, just like many of you have done this in your local churches, there'll be opportunities that we'll be making some videos ahead of time and that sort of thing. And so we'll be asking you to participate and to send in things, to send in a video of yourself, your church, or to record something. So when you see those invitations and emails, respond to them. Tell us that you want to participate and send in your video. Our programming team is quite excellent and amazing. We have some people on the call tonight, today, wherever you are in the world, I guess it's different. And so our programming team is doing a really wonderful job, not only thinking of 60 to 90-minute workshops, but also thinking of these things that we're calling transformative practices. Transformative practices will be 5 to 15-minute practices that we share with one another. So it might be a devotional thought that you have. It might be a practice that you do in your community or in your personal spiritual life that you want to share with others around MCC. We're hoping that this will really serve in our ongoing spiritual development life as a denomination, that these can be moments where I can have a little window into what it might be like to worship with our church, one of our churches in Kenya. And they can have a little window into what it might look like to worship at one of our churches in Sao Paulo. So all these sort of different ways that we can really enter into practice with one another and invite others to share experiences or ideas or practices with one another. And then we're planning on doing a church roll call. So this is really important. So everyone who's here tonight, today, think about this. We want to hear from every single church in a short video. We'll send out instructions and that sort of thing, so don't do it on Sunday. But we want to have every single church send us a video welcoming us into your sanctuary or saying a hello to the conference or something like that. And so we will send out instructions on that when it gets closer to figuring out what we really want from that. But we really want this moment where we can have a little picture of our entire denomination and all the people who call themselves MCC. And so we will be contacting you about that. So when you see that email, jump on it, get excited, get your people to wear matching shirts, whatever you want to do. We really want to see all of you in the church roll call. And of course, once the app is launched and you accept your invitation into the app, join a social group to be able to get to know other people, join a kinship group, or even become a host. Because we'll be online, we'll have so many opportunities for you to become a virtual host in a workshop. We even need some people to host in their Zoom rooms in church. If you have an extra Zoom room we can borrow for a couple of days or even for just a couple of hours for a workshop, that would be amazing. If you want to host a kinship group, just keeping the conversation going together over a meal or something like that, we would love to hear from you and love to get you involved in that. So that is the end of our presentation, but we are here to be able to answer your questions, any questions we haven't already answered. And you can keep in touch with us after this webinar too. Our email is there, conferences@mccchurch.net, and we will do our best to respond in a timely manner to any questions that you have.
Nathan, I see your question about what will be available on the app. If you're not registered, nothing will be available on the app. If you're not registered, you must be registered in order to get into the app.
Which that really is the differentiation between to register or not to register. If you're hosting a streaming party. You know, if you want access to the app, you have to register. If you just want access to a little bit of the content that your church is providing through a streaming party, then you don't really need to register. Yeah. Pastor Joy, we are not going to reveal any of our keynotes yet. I'm so sorry, but we will reveal them soon. So watch your emails. We do have a couple of them already signed up and ready to go, and we're in conversation with a couple more. So you will find out soon about who your keynote presenters will be. That's right, Nathan. That's the big benefit. Maybe on our website, we can sort of say that too. Our website, you can find out all of this information, maybe not in as many words as we chose tonight, but you can see and hear about most of the things that we talked about on our website. So you can keep that. We're going to be updating it a lot and continue to update it. So you can save that. I'll put it in the chat right now, unless Mike just beat me to it.
I did not.
Oh, wow.
And the last thing we talked about was, again, ways that you can get involved. When you register, there are things that you can check to say, I'd like to volunteer for this or volunteer for that. If there's something that you think of later, just email it to us. After the last webinar that we did a couple of hours ago, we got several emails from people saying, you know, we want to, can volunteer for this or that or other things like that. And so please feel free to email us that information as well. Yes, for the lay delegates, there is a business meeting team that is meeting and putting together all of that, where there will be information that will go out for lay delegates. And we also have some other staff that are helping with that to host probably some individual webinars for just our lay delegates. So there will be more coming out for our lay delegates.
I just really want to say, on the previous webinar, you know, we had people from all over the world, from Australia, South Africa, England, Scotland, the USA, and our pastor in Good Hope MCC, Cape Town, South Africa, said, you know, usually only 2 people from their church can get to conference. And often, I know that they have been recipients of the GEM funding, but this time, the whole congregation can come to worship at conference. They can stream it live. There'll be people that they are going to be able to support to actually participate. And I think that's the really important thing to keep in mind. So many of us have been able to attend conference perhaps for decades, and there are thousands of people in MCC that will never get to a general conference in the USA because of the cost, because of visas. You know, there are all sorts of reasons why we can't keep doing it the way we've been doing it if we really want to be a global organization. So thank you so much for being willing to take the risk with us. We're still learning. There's plenty that we still need to uncover, and some things won't go as well as we would hope. But we are all in this journey together. You are a very grace-filled people, and we're very thankful for all the encouragement, all the prayers, everything that all of you have been doing. There will be opportunities to volunteer, to do all sorts of things. We're going to need hosts for different rooms. Mike's going to need a gigantic team of tech people. You know, that 24-hour online support is only going to be available if there are people 24 hours a day available. So, you know, this is exciting and it's scary and it's going to be wonderful. So please encourage as many people from your local congregation to be involved. If you have any questions, please ask Mike and Lauren. They are working 26 hours a day on this. I don't think they're sleeping, eating, or attending to other things in their lives. And I know that the governing board, the Council of Elders, the other MCC staff are all going to be very involved in all of this. So thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight.
If there are other questions, please feel free to email them to us. Otherwise, I believe Reverend Elder Diane is going to close us in prayer.
I am indeed, as somebody who's attended General Conference for decades. Thank you, Cecilia. I'm so excited by this conference. It's the one that I'm the most excited about because more people can have access to it, and I'm thrilled. I am also aware that we have, all of us have been putting aside our conference funds for the last 3 years, and we're not going to need to spend them in the way that we think we are. And so maybe we can actually use that money to help get everybody, give everybody access to General Conference. So let us pray. Holy One, thank you for this time together, for the opportunity to plan for our global conference. Help us to open ourselves to something new, to encourage others to experience this amazing global denomination. Thank you for all the work of the conference teams and our staff. May each person here be blessed as they share all of this with their communities. We lift up those who are struggling tonight and for a while now, the people of the Ukraine, and we pray for peace. We offer these prayers to you in every way you are known and yet to be known, and in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you everyone for being here, for your excellent questions, for your really wonderful support. And hardly a day goes by where we don't get some sort of encouraging note. So thank you all for that too. And we look forward to co-creating this with you. So be in touch with us about how you see yourself participating in conference too. Thank you.
Thank you. Takes all of us to be MCC. Thank you for participating.